And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Satsang for the Soul here on Cloudforum. So I am your co-host, Mark Bentley, tuning in from Perth, Western Australia, and we have the delightful Lee Green, who is coming in from the Philippines. And this is a very special episode, Lee, because this is the last of our season. We've been going non-stop through season 2 of
Welcome to the last of the first season of our Satsang for the Soul.
Yeah.
Hopefully one of many.
One of many. So we will be taking a break after this week as everyone's moving into the holiday seasons, and it's going to be pretty full energy as it is around the world during those times. So we'll be taking some time to drop in and really feel into where things are going. And so if you're watching these live streams, you're watching the replays, then please do drop some comments. Let us know if you've been enjoying them, what you liked, what you'd like more of, that kind of thing. And we can put that in the stirring pot and see what we come up for the new year. But in the meantime, I just want to do a big shout out to Rome, who is with us here live in the Zoom call, as well as anyone who tunes in on the YouTube or Twitch streams, or maybe you're on DSO, BitClout, Diamond, one of the apps on there. Just drop a comment. I'll be keeping it on those through the show. And yeah, let's have some fun. But in the meantime, Lee, how are you, my friend? Would you like to bring us in?
Yes, as synchronicity would have it. Rome was with us in the first episodes of Satsang for the Soul, and now closing the season, he happens to be joining us again, which is really beautiful to cap it off. White Resonant Mirror Day. Here's a song I wrote called Love is Who We Are. As time passed by, I think about you and me. Is it heaven? Is it grim? The times that we're living in, and how are we fitting in with everyone, every woman and child? Dying in hunger, dying in war, dying in crime. I see pain in your eyes, don't know if I can stand it, but I still believe in love. We are love. We are love. We are love. We are love. Love is who we are. We stand on a crossroad. We can no longer just watch it all fall. We stand on different sides, but we stand on the same soil. Brother, lay down, you're gone. We fought with innocent arms. We don't have to hurt each other. Please remember you're my brother. You're my brother. So much pain from the war. I hope we can mend it, 'cause I still believe in love. We are love. We are love. We are love. We are love. Love is who we are. As the nights grow darker, this much is true. You have a shoulder that you can lean on to. You are not alone. It's you and me together. We are waking up today, and love will lead the way. Love prevails today. Love will light the way. We are the love. We are love. We are love. We are love. We are love. Love is who we are. Landing in, looking through the mirrors of the elders, feeling inspired to see what they see. And what they see is a time of unity, planting seeds in the four corners of this earth, and waking up to our true purpose. What is our true north? What are we here to do? What are we here to experience? And in the bigger year called Yellow Electric Seed, activating our bond to the service, to the magician, the wizard in us. How can we create magic in our world? Activating our heart's potential, the potential of our seed. Welcome. One breath. Just to connect us both and bring us into this moment. Whether you're listening live or listening in a replay. And if you're holding a cup of coffee or a cup of tea or a cup of water, just sending a prayer to the waters of this earth, giving thanks for clean water that we have access to. And as we drink our water, as we take a shower, we want to include those people who don't have access to the same access that we have, and bring them in energetically. I am taking the shower for all those people that can't take, that don't have access to this clean water that I have. Let yourself be filled with gratitude. Let that gratitude be informed in the water. It's a beautiful day, it's a beautiful night. Welcome.
Thank you, Lee. Thank you so much. That was really beautiful. It was nice to really feel that resonance, which is the signature of the day, the white resonant mirror in the wave spell of the yellow human. As we find our resonance back to our humanity, to reconnect to that authenticity, that vulnerability of the human, we're such incredible, fragile creatures that, we're the only, marsupial animal or whatever you call it that takes, 9 months to be born and then 18 to 21 years, depending on your opinion, till you become an adult. It's this long journey of birthing into the process. And in that time, we're vulnerable. We're so precious in that space. And then we go out into the world and we get so caught up in all this, knowledge and things that we can become obsessed with, and all these walls that suddenly build up around us to protect that vulnerability. And we lose our connection to that innocence, that we came in with. And, this white resonant mirror and this music and the way you just brought us in just then, it's like, to me, this word resonance is such an important concept. It's like finding the vibration, the frequency, like a well-tuned guitar. How do we tune our strings back again so that we play like the instrument we were born as? And that's what today the white resonant mirror is really offering us, is a space and to find that alignment through deep reflection. To polish our mirrors, not by looking out thinking, how can I influence you with my wisdom, but how can I refine my mirror? How can I clean my mirror? How can I polish my mirror, as Ram Dass would say, using the reflection of what you're bringing to my table, to my experience? And rather me needing to fix you, what can I clean up in me that will bring me closer in alignment to who I truly am, so that I can then influence the world through my creativity, through my natural, organic, authentic expression of my humanity, for whatever that is. And I really felt that in your words. So thank you.
Thank you. What can I say? I sometimes have no words for like the moment that just passed now. And I think that's what resonant maybe means. Just being quiet and tuning in. Receiving the inspiration to get re-inspired. Sometimes we get so caught up in the nitty-gritty things in life, and it's part of it all. Nothing is bad, nothing is positive, really. It is what it is. But in the journey, when we forget our focus, or what is the intention, what is our purpose, it's good to have moments where we can retreat, we can realign, refocus, be re-inspired. Then we can continue our walk to complete the mission. And it's a process of, as we get to the 13, which is the cosmic, how to get there. Really, it takes endurance. Are you prepared to be on this journey? How are you preparing yourself for the journey? Are you nourishing yourself, nurturing yourself? Are you carrying yourself? And who's there with you? So it's the yellow human archetype in the Mayan Dreamspell is, I think for me, a really interesting archetype to contemplate on as a collective on the planet. Because for me, this represents the elders, the elders in all of our communities. When we think of elders, it's not just the indigenous elders, because when we talk about indigenous, we're not just talking about the native people in different lands, but when we talk about indigenous in a way, we are all indigenous. Indigenous is a description of a person that is from that land. So it means that you are indigenous if your tribe or your village you've been there from the beginning of time, and you are indigenous to the land. That's really what it means. And also indigenous is a name that the conquistadores, or the conquerors, have given to the people that are already on the land that they've discovered, quote unquote. But It's time to really look into, look at our lives, because we are the future elders. We are the future elders. Forget about the big village. Just think about your family. Doesn't matter if you have children or not, but I will be a future elder to my nephews and nieces. I'll be a future elder to my own little tribe. That's really our, you know, what is the condition of our tribe, so to speak. And that is the family structure. And we look at the Western world, and what is the quality of family structure? There is independence because people leave at the age of 18, but without guidance, how far can they go?
Mm.
And they will be the future parents or elders. And what are they going to be guiding their children if they didn't really have a lot of wisdom to work with, leaving the nest? So this is where right now it's really really quite beautiful to listen to the elders, the indigenous peoples, because they've never lost that connection. They've been the wisdom keepers that have been carrying the wisdom through the ages, passing it on to their children and their children's children. And they understand our connection to the earth, that the earth itself is a living being. I'm bringing this up because when we think about concepts of the Mayan dream spell, we're just exploring what the archetypes mean. And right now we are on the 7th day. Focus on the archetype of the yellow human. What is it teaching us? Again, when we think of elders, it's because we seek their counsel because they've earned the wisdom through the years by making all the mistakes, by having the near-death experience of nearly falling into the ravine and what not to do, and the traps that they saw when they went into the forest, and they go back into the village and warn people, okay, in this part of the forest, there's going to be something to look out for. I know because I've been there and I almost died. So that's the wisdom that we talk about when we think of the yellow human. It's the wisdom that comes through from our experience. The opposite of this is the white wind. The wind is the wisdom that comes through from spirit. Everything is from spirit, really. But in that sense, the wind is like the carrier of the wisdom directly from source. We are like channeling it. We are like the priestess of this information, of this wisdom. Meanwhile, the opposite of that and its strength is the human, where the wisdom sharing is from spirit, yet you have also embodied it. Now you're sharing this wisdom from your experience. So this is the 13-day period invitation, the purpose, the yellow human, our free will, and how are we using our influence. And it's sharing the wisdom through our experience, or what is our experience showing us, really. So that's it for me at this point. And Mark, like for you, I wanted to ask in terms of the yellow human, what is it about this archetype that you'd like to, in your Mayan dream spell exploration, what is it about the yellow human that touches you the most? Or like, when you
I appreciate the
any
question.
any wave spells in particular of the yellow human that taught you something really profound that you can remember when it's this wave spell.
It's funny that you ask this, Lee, because this has been one of the most potent rounds with this archetype for me personally over the last 7 days. It's been a very powerful journey of really in a sense, it's been a powerful reflection of getting back in touch with myself. And what really has been coming up for me, which with this yellow human is, it's this concept of, of sovereignty, that I also kind of relate to the yellow sun archetype. But with the yellow human, it's this, I had a couple of moments over the weekend where I had some big triggers. It's with everything going on, things happening. And it was at one point where there was someone who was telling me what they're going to do because of what I need. Because they said, oh, look, I can see, you're very busy. You need to put your energy there. So I'm going, and telling me what I'm going to do for my own good in this sense. And it was the way it was said. I watched myself, the hairs on the back of my neck just stood up and everything in my body went, don't tell me what I'm going to do. It's like, you sort your issues out and take care of what you need to do. And if you need something from me that's different to what I'm giving, then let me know that. Let me know what you need. Let me know what's affecting you and how, etc. But don't tell me. And I watched how it just triggered this anger, like almost like a deep rage that I think has possibly been carrying in my body my whole life. Who knows whether it's, from earlier days of repressed energy of my childhood of being a people pleaser all the time or whatever it is. But it's almost like a lifetime of trying to, I look back and it was a reflection for me because I look back at the arrogance of my life at many times feeling like I had the knowledge that could help fix everyone else. And that if I went out and fixed everyone else, then I'd be able to get some peace. I'd be able to just relax because everything's, I'm fine. And it was this reflection stung. It really stung. It hit me hard and it threw me for a curve and stirred up a lot of emotions and confusion about, stop being an asshole, Mark. Because I kind of reacted a bit and said, don't tell me. Let's have a conversation. Let me know how you feel. And then I will engage, And so I had a lot of confusion over the last couple of days where I've been having to process what was okay about that and what was me out of whack in my own shadow reaction state, and what would a ideal response have looked like in that situation. And the more I sit with it, in that moment, that was my emotional truth. That response was my emotional truth. And it was almost like a defense that said, hey, you're now intruding into my reality by pushing your ideas into my world with these words that are very pointed, saying you should. And in that sense, I feel like it was a healthy kind of mechanism, defense mechanism almost, to just say, hey, there's my boundary. Telling me what to do is not, that's crossing the boundary in this relationship. So there was a certain healthiness there. And then I reflected that, as we then, I spoke why that triggered me. And I spoke and I said how it made me feel. And then we talked about, okay, we'll have this conversation at another day once we have some space to process. And then we moved on and we let it go. And we actually had a great day. The rest of the day was fantastic. There was no problems or fighting or anything. And so this gave me a lot of contemplation around this concept of, where is that line with where we want to impose our free will on others, and what's okay and what's not, in that sense. And I think part of why this yellow human wave spell hit me so full force this round is after watching the globe go through this dilemma. The whole world is having to ask this question right now as we're seeing mandates roll out everywhere and all these things. And there's all these different sides of this opinion. And everyone's got their wisdom from different areas, from different things, and basing their judgments from that wisdom that they have from their area. But then there's others with wisdom from other areas. And what I'm watching is that sometimes it becomes very hard to have a conversation with somebody who, when they're talking to you, they've got a very different perspective to you. They've got a very different idea. And that's where we're calling each other crazy and all these different things. And then we try to force it We try to mandate it. We try to say, well, this is right because this many people agree with it, so this is what has to happen. Yet the irony is, for me, as a reformed anarchist, is when we look at history and we look at our wisdom of the ages, that's never worked. When you tell someone what they have to do and you force them, the reason they're not doing it is because they don't trust in the first place. And so then it becomes this drama, it becomes this problem, because all of a sudden it's like, but it's what people should do. It's like, well, that's okay, but what's more important? To achieve an outcome that is the best for all of us in a way that's going to be best, or to force what you think is right on the world? And one of them is going to end up in a mess and a lot of pain. And the other one's going to be complicated, messy, and it might not be perfect. But from the wisdom of the ages, when we say words like, you must do this, you should do this, and we're saying you, I mean, you can even hear it, right? When you say it, someone even says that, there's that part that goes, hang on, what? Whereas when someone says, hey, I feel a bit unsafe when things are going like this. If someone says to me, hey, I feel like, this is what I feel, then I listen, because I'm like, hey, your feelings, no one can argue with how you feel. If you're scared, if you're worried, if you're happy, if you're this, they're yours. They're 100%. I can recognize that. Absolutely. And so then I can listen to you. I'll listen to how you feel. And then I can use that to help go, okay, I can have compassion now and go, now I understand why you want me to do this. This helps me now to understand that. Now, whether I do or not, I will need to make a decision based on my own free will from the rest of the wisdom that I've gathered that you might not be aware that I have, just like I'm not aware of what you have. But unless we can have this conversation and exchange wisdom in a place of compassion, and that analog of the mirror, that red dragon, where we allow each other space to birth our awareness and our understandings together, then I see so much more progress and evolution of all of our understandings. And so for me, there's been a really strong energy this last week that's been provoking that in me to get stronger in my core so that I can be clear on what my boundaries are when I engage. And if we engage in relationship, in conversation, then these are the parameters. If you come in telling me you need to do, then there is no conversation. It's very simple. And by doing that, it means I can now feel safe when I go into that conversation, because I know that who I am is not reliant on the outcome of this conversation. My worthiness is not weighing on the outcome of this, but rather I can go in curious. I can go in with a much more open heart, because I don't feel like I'm going to lose my sovereignty, lose my freedom in daring to listen to somebody else's opinion. And then from that place, it really then comes to, like you're singing in the song, Lee, like we are love. It's like what it comes down to is, what is the truth beyond the truth beyond the truth beyond all these details and intellectual concepts and things that we're all yelling and screaming and punching out everywhere? What's at the heart of that? What's the actual truth there? And it's that we are love. Love drives us. Fear closes our light down to protect us in case, like playing dead in moments of need. But love is what drives us. Love is what we thrive on. It's the manure and the water and the nutrients that allow us to exist. And love needs to move through these healthy connections, these healthy circuits. And as the polarity of masculine and feminine in all its physical forms, it allows, just like a battery, positive and negative, masculine, feminine, it allows energy to circulate. We need to have connection with each other, with other humans, where my masculine and feminine can plug into your masculine and feminine, and we can allow love to transmit between us. And it doesn't mean we have to agree, but that we can be together, passionate, but respectful. And for me, when our wisdom that we're trying to get people to understand excludes that concept and pushes that idea that we are one, that we are love, and that in the end, we're all just trying to work it out together. When we exclude that and we just focus on this one thing, then that's where we end up in the shadow side, of trying to dominate and the rest, which actually leads to more separation and paradoxically the very thing that we're trying to stop, you know.
There's a lot in what you shared. Thank you for sharing. Interesting how you brought in the analog, which is the support. The red dragon is the support of this archetype white mirror. And it's, it just maybe, I don't know, what it speaks to me at the moment is that whenever we hold the mirror up or when we look at the mirror, not just for other people, but for ourselves, are we nurturing? Are we doing it in a way just like a mother will correct her child out of love, out of really wanting some of the goodness, to come out of correcting something? And that's also for me what the elders symbolize. Because who else would correct our wrongdoings except for the elders? But there is a way, like you said, of doing it not as a you should be doing this, but more of like a question. What do you think you've done wrong? You tell me. Francesca, my partner, I love the story that she tells about her late mother, her other mother, Iona, who's Greek Shanghainese, a philosopher in her own right, a very strong woman. And this is how she was brought up. When she would make a mistake, she will sit her down and she'll ask her, what do you think is the reason why you're sitting in front of me right now? What do you think you've done? And she won't be able to stand up from that table until she really starts to speak. So it's not like the mother is telling you like what you did, and then at the end of that conversation, oh, because I went past my curfew and, I should not have done that because the curfew was instilled, upon me to come home at this time and I went overboard. And she says, okay, great, fantastic. You know what you did wrong. So what kind of grounding, what do you think you should receive? And she would be the one to decide the terms. She'd like, okay, well, I won't have any access to telephone calls or television. So when it came from her, you're grounded. I'm grounding my own self. No one's grounding me. She gave you the terms, but you have to experience the result of that action because you didn't agree, you didn't show up in our agreement that you could go out this weekend, but since you're underage, you should come back at this time, and you didn't. That was not right because that was not safe. So that was the driving point of the conversation, is you tell me why I called you in front of me right now. Because you did something wrong, but I'm not going to tell you what you did. You tell me what you did, and you tell me the right punishment for that, for yourself. And that is amazing. That concept, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Because it comes from that place of like, okay, like, how does that land with you? Because to me, that never left me when she started to share with me about that. That's something I would probably be passing on to my children as well when I have one.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and you can feel how different the concept is, right? Than just being yelled at, shouted at, shame, blame, and all that other game, and thrown into your bedroom, to kind of just dwelling what you were told is wrong, as opposed to, so then you get used to being told all the time what's wrong and right, rather than given that space. Absolutely. And you're sorry, you go, Lee.
And what? Go ahead, finish your sentence.
Okay. I was just going to say, it's this is the other thing as well, that when we talk about elders and this wisdom, again, it's not talking about what's correct and what's absolute truth. It's what have we learned? What have they learned through their mistakes? Not what have they learned through their study. I mean, the study helps us understand mistakes, right? I mean, really, that's what science is, a series of infinite experiments, which are infinite mistakes until one actually works. And it's through trying the ones that don't work that eventually you find what does work. So the mistakes are natural, it's perfect. And we shouldn't be punished as such as, given an opportunity to learn. through those mistakes. So for me, the elder, that they're a guide, just like you're saying, they're a guide by asking questions, because those questions will get them to contemplate and understand the dynamics of what have happened. And if you understand the dynamics of what have happened fundamentally, like, why did that hurt that other child? Like, why do you feel like maybe they're crying right now? You know, and like you say, bringing them on that journey, then they get to extract wisdom that they can then bring into their life and maybe not need to make that mistake again and again. But if we don't learn, then we will make that mistake again and again until eventually we do. And that's evolution in a sense of consciousness. So I think it's such a powerful thing to really give that space to, instead of tell everyone, ask them, you know, and also be ready to learn. Just as, you know, the elders, the wise elders, they also learn from the youth, from the innocence of the children, from the ones that are growing up, you know, that are going out and running tests on different things. Then the elders can learn with them, but they're out in the forefront, you know, and guiding them on the deeper fundamentals.
Just starting to, there's a lot really. You also mentioned earlier, and I like to go into that conversation a little bit in terms of the mandate of vaccination. You're talking about vaccination, right? Mandating vaccination with everyone. And this is a really interesting concept, because when we talk about free will, some of the conversations I've had around this topic, when I really ask people, why are they resistant to getting vaccinated? And one sister told me, you know, I've been abused all my life as a child. And now that I'm old, I actually now have control over what to do with my body. And now somebody else is telling me again what I should be doing with my own body. And it made me realize, well, maybe the issue is not really the vaccine itself. Your issue is an imposition in your body. But do you have a problem with the vaccine? She says, no. Actually, maybe I don't really have a real big problem with the vaccine. We're all gonna, you know, she says, it's not my problem, but my problem is the way it's being imposed. So that's something to look at. You know, when we think about social structures as well, and I like to bring all the different perspectives just for contemplation. It's good to always have different avenues of experience, because everyone will have a different experience. And in terms of the vaccination and how it's being mandated, what's the reason? There is the control that's happening. Whether it's to control the spread of it or to control the population, those are two different things, right? And of course, there's always like some other agendas that's riding on a real crisis that's happening. And that's really what we are resistant towards, you know, these authorities that are imposing upon and taking advantage of the real crisis to further corral people and control people. So that is the old way that is dying. That is the old way of the system. That way is not going to last very long. We know that. We know that we are moving into a new time. In this white resonant mirror day, and the support is the dragon. You know, when you look at the mirror, when I also look at some of the spiritual circles, there are pro-vaccination and anti-vaccination, because we don't know the result of the vaccine or the other one, you know, both sides. I'm open to both. I'm open. I'm not anti-vaccine. I am not pro-vaccine if that's not for you. The conversation that would be interesting to be had is, if you don't want to get vaccinated, and the reason why people are getting vaccinated is because this is probably the data, like for us here, the data from the hospitals, which they don't have any agenda except that they really want a break. They're going on strikes. They were, because they were super overworked, 2 years of the hospitals just being full, and it's all COVID patients. And so after a year, when the vaccination started to roll, and I'm just sharing a perspective from my world and my lens, okay? And if you're listening, it's just another piece of information that is from real data. For me, it's true. You know, this is my truth. It's not mainstream media that's making you feel, giving you different information. But the hospital people are so tired of the hospitals being full, and the data that they've released is that the people in the critical care are people that are not vaccinated, sadly. And some of them are very young. Some of them are healthy, not necessarily in the obese part. And the people in the like really low area, some of them are also vaccinated, but they still got the COVID and they still went to the hospital. But none of the fully vaccinated ones ever really make it to a point where you are in the dying percentage. So now all the non-COVID patients are affected because people that need surgery don't have any medical attendants anymore. So this was the problem in our healthcare. We don't have enough. So that's why the people from the healthcare from that hospital says, if you want to help us, this is what we see is a good result of the vaccination, and it's helping people not get to the critical care. And if this is not for you, and you have other medical ailments that is contradictory to the vaccine, then yes, consider not getting vaccinated. So these are the two opposing sides. And so when we think about that perspective, okay, if we don't want to get vaccinated, the question is that the mirror is showing us, okay, this is the reality of what's happening. If you have your free will, make your decision. But the red dragon is there to ask us, how are you going to take responsibility of yourself? If you don't want to get vaccinated, what is it that you can do to add so that we can all start to ease the burden, the pressure in the healthcare system? The economic system is just, that's what's being on the side affected, but more than anything, it's really healthcare, right? So how can we take responsibility of our own bodies so that we don't add to the pressure that they're receiving? So for example, like, okay, people that are non-vaccinated, maybe we can talk about that. Like, what are the other things that we can do? If we are to get COVID, are we going to burden them? Are we going to burden the hospitals too? What can we do in our own to help? So that to me is the representation of the red dragon, taking responsibility of what we can do in our body now. If we're resisting on one thing, then maybe we can be open to present, I don't want that, but wait a minute. There's something else that I can do so I can be part of the solution. This is my idea. And so I think that's what I also want to see in the world. What are the new ideas? What are the new concepts in terms of publicly engaging with one another again? Like, what are the new safety protocols that we can explore so we can start to interact again so that we don't have to be separated, vaccinated and non-vaccinated people, because it's such a gray line. So there's so many things that we have to consider. And I feel, for us humans right now on the planet, there's so many things in our personal life and our global life that is so intense that it's easy to just check out and just go retreat into the forest and forget about civilization.
It is very
and the
tempting
craziness of it all. But yeah, I just wanted to share that perspective too. Again, I think in some way we are all having to take responsibility of something. And I believe there are also good leaders, and I believe that there are also leaders that take advantage. Because I guess for the good leaders, I think it's, how can I take responsibility now of my area, my people? What are, with the help of everybody, science and everything, what I can do to help protect them? The other one is, what can I do to control them? They're not doing what I want them to do. Let's just, so it's so interesting, the old and the new way, how it can, how we can transition.
And this is, to me, one of the biggest problems with centralization. This is why I work so much with decentralization, with blockchain, with the new technologies coming forwards. People go, oh, that's all digital, I want to be in the real world. It's like, well, in your real world, you need politicians. You need centralized power in the current old world that you've been living in, because that's without the technology, that's what needs to be done. Whereas when you move into a decentralized world, we don't need to centralize power in the same way. And so I kind of come at this from a bit of a different angle, Lee, in when looking at these things, as you're aware in different bits. But I think part of the problem is that we're still saying pro-vaccine, anti-vaccine, when really the biggest issue I see isn't anti-vaxxers, it's anti-mandate. And no one says that in the media. They say anti-vaxxers. There's even a politician in the Northern Territory that got really angry on a news thing and was saying, if you say anything, then I don't care if you've had the vaccine, you're an anti-vaxxer. If you are anti-mandate, you are anti-vaxxer, was the statement they're putting out and the message they're putting in. And for me, where this comes down to is the problem is trust. I don't trust centralized government. And I can show you a list of references and documents and evidence and facts and that are publicly accepted, longer than probably from here to the moon, of the corruption within politics, within pharmaceuticals, within all these different things. And so there's this other side that is also looking at facts, that is looking at figures, that is looking at these things. But if I even bring that up, like there'll be people right now screaming at this screen going, oh, he's an anti-vaxxer, It's like, if you even bring it up, the conversation is being shut down very quickly with shame and with this kind of rejection from society and all these different things that's being pushed, especially here in Australia, over on the East Coast especially. And this is dividing our societies. It is splitting things up. And one of the things for me, Lee, is the more we see the statistics and data of the vaccines, we're seeing that there's still, there is a lot more to this that they're not talking about. And I'm not talking side stuff, but more than anything, that many people aren't aware that there are a lot of studies showing that those that went in and needed serious care had deficiencies in vitamin D. Vitamin D is one of the cheapest supplements in the world. It's widely available and we get it from the sun. And part of the problem is during all these lockdowns and everything, people have been pushed away from the sun. Because of all the sunscreen, fear of cancer, etc., we're putting sun cream on, blocking vitamin D generation because of the sun. And then on top of that, I have not heard once our Australian government mention vitamin D. Yet we have evidence, research, studies that show that there is a link, a very strong causal link to the deficiency of vitamin D in a body's ability to handle these strains and things that are coming through. And I haven't heard any conversation about eat healthy, your nutrition. Stop eating McDonald's. That'll help you survive through the epidemic. There's a lot of different things where we could be doing, just like you were saying, it's not just the vaccine. There are many other things that are very powerful, that are very potent to help support the way we can move through this. But there's become this division that even that conversation can't happen. That even me saying this right now, it's like there's a little part of me that goes, whoa, you're putting yourself out in the firing line there, and there's a lot of people that feel that way, that are being silenced right now, that aren't speaking, and when they are, they've been shut down and pushed out of the conversation. And so this is where, for me, what we're dealing with is for me personally, there's a much deeper issue that we're facing. And it's being triggered by the vaccines, the mandates, the issues around that. But it's an issue that we've needed to come and face for a long time. And I think it's an issue that's going to start us moving towards decentralization. It's going to trigger catalysts that are going to make us start making different decisions in how we have communication, how we have governance, etc., so that we can start getting healthy, good responses that acknowledge the real human behavior, psychology of how things work, not just what on paper is right or wrong, but actually how can we get there without needing to use punishment and fear and division and these things. And so in that sense, I feel like it's a perfect storm. It's a perfect storm that's stirring us all up to start questioning things, to look at it. And like you say, to always come back to, okay, how about we do less about, who's right or wrong, and more about, well, okay, just like you were saying, Lee, if you aren't going to get vaccinated, what are you going to do? Are you going to clean up your diet? Are you going to do some research on what nutrients and what nutrition can help? Are you going to look into those vitamin D studies and get the evidence for yourself? Because I share that, I want to share them to people, but they won't read them. They won't look at them because they go, oh, that's just whatever. Even though they're proper, recognized, proper research documents, everything, the same level on caliber that is being used for everything else that everyone does accept, they won't look at them. And so then you have this position where it's okay. So in that case, I can't force you to do that. But what I can do is take care of what I'm willing to do. And I can ask you, what are you willing to do? What would it take? That was the question I had for my father when we had a heated discussion was, okay, I understand the fear. I understand the concern. I really genuinely do. And I have information that I would love you to read that I think would put your heart at ease, that would help you understand something on a deeper level. But what would it take? What would it take for you to be able to trust in that? And it was really interesting to see that there was no clear answer. It's like, unless it came from a government directive on the media that he watches, then it wasn't going to be received. And that was his truth. And so when I understood that, I could surrender and go, okay, I get it. So I just have to leave this and just take care and do the best I can while being compassionate for where you're coming from. And it's a really tricky thing. It's a really tricky thing to be able to move forwards from this time, and not move into separation of them and us. And this thing of vaxxers, anti-vaxxers. So I would love if everyone would stop using that term anti-vax and instead acknowledge that it's anti-mandate, that 80%. Yes, there may be anti-vaxxers in there. Absolutely, there are. Absolutely. They're a small percentage. In the same way that a lot of the protests that happened in the east of Australia were peaceful, with a small percentage of troublemakers. The police did more violence than the people. And this is part of the problem. When we allow centralized power to have absolute control, which has just happened in Victoria with the Premier, then all of a sudden, it starts slipping down a slippery slope. It's okay if you trust the person that holds that power. That's where dictators are fantastic. A benevolent dictator, if you can find a king and queen that love the country and you love them, that's a beautiful thing. Let them have the power, right? But the problem is we have to trust them. And if we don't, then that's a very dangerous thing. That's the problem. That's the problem. For me, it's trust. It's like you have to earn trust, just like elders had to learn trust.
Beautiful. Yeah, I think this is when it's good to really reconsider how the villages, the elders, or the different indigenous tribes do it. It's in a decentralized way because they take care of each of the other areas. There's take responsibility of our own little villages. So it's interesting. Like we have a presidential election coming up, and there's a presidential candidate that's actually really bringing up the focus on not focusing on a national level, but focusing on the provincial level. She was even saying that maybe she'll spend more time in the province. And this is really where it would be beneficial because it's not centralized to the main capital city that the power is there, but rather funneling things back to the provincial areas so people don't have to go to the city to work because that's where the only economic opportunity is. How about let's funnel fundings and infrastructure in the provincial areas, the rural areas, so that they can start to build their communities, their economy, and they would be self-sufficient, sovereign. So the people don't have to leave the rural places because there's no work there for them, and they have to go to the big city, and now you have a lot of urban poor. So I like that vision because she herself came from the province, and she's done a lot of really good work. So for me, I'm like, oh, that's an interesting idea, and I actually would really love to see how that can work because that would be a great system. When there's no one centralized power and focusing only on a national level. She's saying that it hardly reaches the fringes. everything is just on a national level. So she wants to focus on the fringe, people living on the fringes, the really poor people, marginalized people, and how she can develop these areas so that it can be self-sufficient. And I'm like, wow, to me, that is a great concept. To me, that's going to create order. And if we look at the archetype of the mirror, it has the four pyramids together, even reflected perfectly in the four sides. And the more that we really cut away things in our life right now that really makes no sense anymore to our life, it would really help us to create more order. By taking responsibility, like you said, taking responsibility of our health, taking responsibility of what we can do, not just for ourselves, but how can we contribute from being, and I wrote this as part of the write-up for our upcoming women's retreat, the times that we are living in now. It's an invitation to move from being self-serving to being of service, from consuming to contributing. And there's a lot there. This is really when we can start to move from separation to unification. So many ways, that we can start to make the shift in our lives.
I'll hold to that.
That. I know.
The time has flown yet again. That was a deep and juicy conversation. And even there, how beautiful to be able to have that, to have differing perspectives, yet be able to, and it was, thank you for hearing me, and how healing that is for just moving forwards. And so I really want to say thank you, Lee. Thank you for being willing to have those difficult conversations and to listen and to hear each other and be in that space.
Yeah.
And may we see more of that as we go forwards. Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you. It's good to talk from different perspectives. And it doesn't even feel like different perspectives. It just feels like it's all perspectives, because we're not here to make each other agree on what it is that we think is right. There's
if anything,
right
it should be a sharing of information, putting it all in the middle and saying, hey, let's sort this out. Let's see what we can sort out in the next few minutes. And maybe I'll get a little something, maybe you'll get a little something, and we can go and digest that, without needing to have solutions or convince someone this way or that. So with that, my dear, I want to say thank you to Rome, who's tuning in with us here today. Thanks to everyone who's watching the replay or maybe watching the live in the background there. Really appreciate all the love and support for Satsang for the Souls. It's been a passion project of Lee and I, and it's been I know for me, a great anchor each week to come back and connect. And so I just want to say thank you to everyone for that. Thank you, Lee, for just being such a solid partner in crime in this one. It's been a lot of fun. And yeah, like we said before, this will be our last session for this season, and then we'll drop in and feel into where we want to go from here. We'd love to hear from you. So please tag Lee and I in any comments on DSO, BitClout, Diamond App, whatever you're using out there, and let us know what you'd like more of from us so that we can make sure, because in the end, as you're saying, Lee, we're here to be of service. And so in that sense, that means how can our creativity, how can our connection with this work in the way that we love it, how can that serve you? How can that be of service to the community in different ways? So it's important that we're listening to what you like. So please do get in touch, comment and post, and we'll see you in the next new year. So Lee, my dear, thank you so much, and I'll let you take us out. I'll let you take us out. Would you please take us out?
Take us out. All right. I will do my best. Thank you so much, Mark, for being a solid pillar, partner in this Satsang for the Soul. It's truly a joy, and it's been such a wonderful offering for me to explore this year. It's really definitely one of the highlights on a personal level. Having given birth to the Satsang for the Soul with you, it's so beautiful that we have space to, dive into this world of the Mayan Dreamspell and use the Mayan Dreamspell as a map as we explore, these concepts, ideas, codes, and emotions, life, real life. Not check out into fantasy world life, but really get into whatever the state of the world truly is, and really observe it and look at it from that perspective, being of the world and not checked out from it. Learning how we can create from what we are seeing with the world. It's not all ugly. It's both, and it's good to have our eyes to see both. We're given two eyes, 2 ears, 2 nostrils. So yeah, good balance. It's been a great joy. I wanna share. I don't think I've only sang the song at the Bali Spirit Festival some years ago, and it feels resonant for me right now to share this. It's called Walk On.
Nice.
So sharing this with all of our friends here. Rome, thank you for hanging out with us and listening, my dear. Listen to the beat of your heart and your soul. Listen to the beat of your heart and your soul. Listen to the beat of your heart and your soul. Listen to the beat of your heart and your soul. Know that a deep love dwells within. It's a true feeling. It's a true feeling. It's the true feeling of the light in my heart and my soul. It's the true feeling of the light in my heart and my soul. It's the true feeling of the light in my heart. It's the true feeling of my soul and my heart. Start, look up, see the sky above you. Know that the infinite force is behind you. Smiles from within, cries from the heart who didn't know itself. And the love that has made you heal, feel. Struggle is real, but we keep on walking on till our path reveals the humblest way to the truth freeway to live in our hearts. Listen to the beat of your heart and your soul. Listen to the beat of your heart and your soul. Know that a deep love dwells within. It's a true feeling. It's a true feeling. It's the true feeling of the light in my heart and my soul. It's the true feeling of the light in my heart and my soul. It's the true feeling of the light in my heart and my soul. It's the true feeling of my soul and my heart. Start one step, let the rhythm take you. Know that your feet can dance if you want to. Let this love fill you, let your heart lead you. Let your soul shine with the light that's within you. Thoughts from within you, bathe in the sun who lights up the truth in the dark that surrounds you. Feel the heart pump, blood rush from within you. Let it wash away all the pain that you've been through. To the beat of your heart and your soul. I'll listen to the beat of your heart and your soul. Listen to the beat of your heart and your soul. Oh, listen to the beat of your heart and your soul. Know that a deep love dwells within. It's a true feeling. It's a true feeling. It's a true feeling of the light in my heart and my soul. It's a true feeling of the light in my heart and my soul. It's a true feeling of the light in my heart and my soul. It's a true feeling of my soul and my heart. Walking on, walking every hour till I get back home. Walking on, deep in my heart. I know I'm not alone. Listen to the beat of your heart and your soul. Listen to the beat of your heart and your soul. Listen to the beat of your heart and your soul. Listen to the beat of your heart and your soul. Thank you for joining us in this beautiful full cycle of Satsang for the Soul as we close our first season, season one of many. We hope and we give thanks. on behalf of my dear brother Mark, Alex from Cloud Forum, we give thanks for this platform to share, to explore, to come together, to meet others, to learn, to listen, to speak, to share, to create, to imagine, to dream, to pray, to breathe. Enjoy the rest of this yellow human ring spell. And listen to the beat of your heart and your soul and your free will. Know that there is wisdom that comes from learning from our mistakes. And as long as we take responsibility of what we create, and imagine if 7 billion people take responsibility for what they will create, it's a beautiful world. It's not really truly impossible, and we really can only make these changes in our lives and imagine our small communities, our small tribes, our children, our sisters, brothers, our family members. If we can get this small tribe to harmonize, then that is the more real world in our experience. Seek to create this harmony within, and seek to create this harmony in a little fractal of what a village and a country is, which is in our family. And that is where the work, that is where we are being invited to really dive into that work. As Ram Dass once said, if you think that you are enlightened, go spend a weekend with your family. And it's just a beautiful, light way to put it, you know. That's really where it is. So again, in love and in gratitude. Thank you so much. Wishing you all blessings in this winter and the end of this Gregorian year. Enjoy this happy Christmas and New Year. Listen to the beat of your heart and your soul. Listen to the beat of your heart and your soul. Listen to the beat of your heart and your soul. Listen to the beat of your heart and your soul. Know that a deep love dwells within. It's a true feeling. It's a true feeling. It's a true feeling of the light in my heart and my soul. It's a true feeling of the light in my heart and my soul. It's the true feeling of the light in my heart and my soul. It's the true feeling of my soul and my heart. In Lakesh.
In Lakesh.
I am another yourself. I am you and you are me.
Aho.
Aho. Love you, Mark.
Love you too,
Thank
Lee.
you for a beautiful season.
Until our next dance. We'll see you all then.
Bye, everyone.